I had a chance to catch up with the senior senator from the great state of Texas and member of the Senate Committee on the Budget, John Cornyn, just before the vote. Here's President Trump made tax reform one of the cornerstones of his economic agenda during the first term, still a very important pillar of his economic strategy now. How do you think this is all going to go down?
Well, failure is not an option. If we don't extend the expiring tax provisions that we passed in 2017 during President Trump's first term, it will be a tax increase on 62% of American taxpayers. And of course, that would be on top of 40-year high inflation under the Biden administration. So failure is not an option.
Many analysts believe that the market was overvalued for some time. How critical is it to pass this tax relief and the expanded relief for the markets and the overall economic health of the country?
Well, if you want to see the markets tank and you want to see us go into a recession, we need to see all that would take is an increase in taxes for middle-class taxpayers. As I said, 62% would pay more. That's an average of about $3,000 per family. So that would, I think, have a tremendously negative effect. And that's why I said we have no choice but to succeed.
President taking bold steps this week, sir, to realign trade agreements that he says favor China and are unfair to Americans and American companies. Here's the president weighing in on the new tariffs.
The markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country is going to boom, and the rest of the world wants to see, is there any way they can make a deal? They've taken advantage of us for many, many years. For many years, we've been at the wrong side of the ball. We're up almost to $7 trillion of investment coming into our country, and you'll see how it's going to turn out. Our country's going to boom.
Isn't there something to this notion that major markets are unfairly erecting barriers to U.S. companies, particularly Communist China?
Absolutely. Recently, I had Texas cattle raisers come to see me, and they talked about all of the Australian beef, for example, that comes into the United States, yet we can't sell a single steak in Australia. So I think the idea of reciprocity is hard to argue with. And matter of fact, it seems just fair. And I think that's what the president is trying to achieve. But you know the president, he's a deal maker. If people have another idea or a better idea or they want to engage, I think he's open to that.
So what's your message for Americans, or even kind of your own approach to this kind of policy shift that many people say that it's been a long time coming?
Well, I would say stay calm and carry on and give this a chance to work. I think we'll see whether it works. But the truth is we've been sort of, as President Trump said, we've been outsourcing manufacturing to other countries around the world, destroying jobs here at home. And these policies, I believe, are designed to encourage more manufacturing here in America, to reduce the vulnerability we have on foreign supply chains, and to increase good-paying jobs here at home.
I want to pivot before I lose you to the border. The latest U.S. Customs and Border Protection numbers showing that during March, we saw the lowest number of crossings ever. When you're talking to your constituents and to law enforcement down in Texas, are they feeling the impacts of this change in policy, and what does that look like for them?
Well, it's been dramatic, and what this does is put the lie to some of the things we heard during the last administration is we need to change the laws in order to secure the border. As it turns out, we just needed to change presidents and have a president who will actually enforce the law. But with the reduction of people coming across, including unaccompanied children, that means the Border Patrol, which are law enforcement officers, can actually do their job and focus on the human traffickers, the fentanyl importation into the United States, and other criminal activities. So things are getting back to the way they were. Actually, they're better than they were, certainly before Biden, but going back to where they were many, many years. And again, I think the message is the gig is up, and you're not going to be able to come into the United States willy-nilly, and I think that's having a dramatically positive impact.
Quick exit question for you. You know, so many people have said about the Democrats and this open border for 4 years, how do you sleep at night? When you talk to, now you see the results. It's so clear that they could have done this and prevented all of the impacts on this. When you talk to your Democrat colleagues, how do they justify what they've said over the last 4 years about the border policy?
Well, frankly, I don't think they care. I used to think it was a conspiracy theory to say that they just want people to come into the country by illegal means and eventually then become citizens and then vote Democratic. But I no longer think that's a conspiracy theory. I don't see any other logical explanation. But the 500,000 or so unaccompanied children that were essentially lost by the Biden administration, many of whom, well, we frankly just don't know what's happened to them, whether they're trafficked for sex, whether they're recruited into gangs, whether they're going to school. To me, it just staggered the imagination, and you begin to ask yourself, what will it take to get people outraged at this? Well, I think President Trump brought the message home and got the referendum was decided on November the 5th, and clearly people are not comfortable with that and wanted a restoration of our borders.
All right, the senator from the great state of Texas, John Cornyn, thank you very much for being here, sir.
Glad to be with you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.